See if I can fix this some. It ain't gonna be with so much on it. All right. I guess this will be WNDC. WNDC stands for We in the Crib and You Ain't. Um, I ain't had no intentions of doing this. It's just that I ain't did nothing in a bit. I figure I'd probably make a short attempt at this just to see how it comes out. Um, there's a lot of people want to talk about a lot of things I want to talk about, and to be frank, it's been so much of it that for a lot of people out there that can do all that editing and all other stuff, yeah, good for you. Um, it's just so much, you know. Now, what I can be grateful for is being in DC, and you ain't. And some days I have moments and times where I get to watch the world go round and round as if I'm in this little bubble. Because it sure do feel a lot different out there, wherever it is that everybody else is that I'm not. And yet here I am in places where many of the things that go on in this world that people see and go, you see what just happened in the Capitol? Are things that were another day for me at work. And sometimes I get back from those excursions only to see such a difference in uh, what it does or what people do with it. And it's a little past wagging the dog on so many levels because it's not about what it is that we seeing, but it is what we ain't seeing. And how easy it is for us to basically have a plethora of things in our own personal little Idaho to do that we don't have to actually just stop and scratch our heads sometime and go, man, this whole transitional thing that's going on with this Age of Aquarius thing, it's not as fun as the song used to be when they were just talking about the dawning of the Age of Aquarius. We up in this shit real good like right now, and um, it's starting to get kind of personal where you know some people, hey Noah, uh, start feeling like you're waking up more and more, and unbeknownst to yourself, you start noticing more of this kind of discomfort, kind of like a backwards version of It's a Better Life, where all of a sudden, you know, hey Jack, hey Jordan, hey whoever, uh, yeah, where sometimes I used to like to play this little game with genetics, where we're in this little state where everybody thought they had it all figured out, and then all of a sudden they threw a monkey in the wrench, and all of a sudden people are like, we're not really sure who's got what and when it's going to do anything, but we're in the same kind of era and time. This is volatile for just change, as the era that we basically went back and based our whole transition to this one, just by the experiences of a couple of people who took advantage of some of the other things that were available in this shift as we were all evolving into newer Homo sapiens or whatever you want to call it too. Um, Not that I want to get off and get all crazy with the jargon of sorts, but I don't know about all of y'all, but there's a few people I've been noticing who are starting to find themselves struggling. Uh, I'm a I'm older in dog years than I am in earth years, if that means anything. But if you have to ask, uh, I'll take 60s and above as a start. Anywho, and that lies a little bit of where I'm at with this because There are many days that I see things in such an analog manner that it's difficult for me to express to anyone how what you see now with a lot of people who are basically perfectly okay with HD, and yet my ADD is in HD enough that it finds moments and times where you wonder how many people are actually seeing what they're seeing or feeling what they're feeling, and what is it doing to actually do more than just excuse their existence themselves. Um, it's starting to get even more awkward where people are starting to rather like you or like not liking you. You could be minding your own business, and next thing you know, you're getting blamed for something, or noticing the person that has been loving you for all your lifetime, all of a sudden they're starting to identify you differently. Now all of a sudden you're starting to notice how people are starting to use words like "you never," "you can't," "I don't believe you can," "you don't," in a manner that is so it's so um, there's no faith left in anybody's capability of existing or assuming that others can be um, whatever they're capable of interpreting on any given day. And yet, I really truly believe we're all bipolar people on a bipolar planet. That is no longer funny in the medical field because that was the best way that they can explain how there's going to be a lot of people like you and me that are going to evolve, whether we like it or not, because genetically speaking, nobody has an idea what's going to happen. But the last time that this shit got this real, they start writing about this dude named Jesus and how he kept talking about how, hey, I'm not anything bigger or lesser than anything else, but all of you could do the same thing if you just do a couple of these things that I do. A lot of those things are things that we fail to believe are as important unless you're really into some want to be some Shaolin somebody or another. And yet some of it is kind of simple, like how easy it is for you to be focused or not. You know, how well is your faith? When you pray, do you pray at such an intensity? Do you know that when you make a phone call and you say, hey, Lord, or whatever you call yourself, hey, I just want to make a request in this, that, and the other, you put that on. It's not like you calling a radio station unless you really honestly believe that you can do that. And then you have to have results with that. And, a lot of people have been sucking at being able to pray for peace. And yet there is no peace and change. And um, wherever we're going to be in humanity in about 2,000 years from now, ain't going to mean a hell of beans for how comfortable or uncomfortable it is for a whole lot of us right now to be right dead in the bed of where we're at. You got people who just finished an election that are starting to realize that 80, 60, 80% of most of the people who really put their love and trust and hard belief in this whole dynamic are going to be the people that are going to suffer the most. And they're going to be more angry at a lot of the other people that they thought they were preventing from getting over and finally getting a piece of the pie just because, well, it's not about us in the first place. And if there's anything that anybody can take from this, it's the mere fact that, there's a whole lot of mystical people that have been hoping that they could end up waking up one day, evolving or mutating into something else. People played with that with uh, the cartoon magazines and stuff, and they used to call it the Big Bang Theory. And all of a sudden, some people even play with the 5Gs and this, that, and the other. But the main ingredient behind this is that the genetics of the children that are generations or whatnot that are now just starting to breathe are a whole different kind of something, and they're tuned for a whole different kind of something that for many of us we're lucky if we can basically keep it afloat, stay mentally stable as these shifts of things that are hitting us as hard as the only way that you can kind of identify it are like the northern light syndrome where you see these beams of light that are pounding down on the earth and everything on it, and they're in all these beautiful colors, but nobody knows what they are. And the closest you can get to it used to be, "Hey, man, I'm sending you some perfectly good, positive chartreuse light, or this, that, and the other," and you believed it. But that hippie kind of thing really is not that simple anymore. This ain't Celestine prophecy point two, and yet um, in a way, I'm starting to also watch a lot of people genetically allow themselves to dislocate themselves from the evolution that's coming too. I mean, people who absolutely positively need to fuck up their lives by fucking with the wrong people and having to find out the hard way they could have just left all this shit alone and they would have been perfectly okay together. But nah, you had to poke the wrong people for all the wrong reasons, and we're not really trying to realize that part of that was something that we were trying to practice in these faith things, but fuck that. Everybody ain't tired, everybody's not trying to get into this spirituality stuff, or are they? And yet sometimes that could be the sole difference between, "Yes, officer, I did, and thank you, I'll take this ticket and go," or the last day you had uh, on this earth, let alone on free earth. Um, and yet there is no similars. There's absolutely nobody that is alike. And it's not supposed to be that way. This is like that whole big puzzle thing where, the more people you have that are the same piece, the less chances you have of putting the puzzle together. And yet, the more beneficial we are is to not be, and yet be more capable of being. I sneeze, and not that I need to be blessed, but if you can find an ability of doing so, I'm gonna leave this just where it's at right now, because if it ain't the words, it's got to be the energy. But um, uh, I don't know nothing about no faps, man. I'm not really into all the other thing. What I do know is uh, we entertain ourselves with some of the most superficial shit that's a little bit more slicker or different than that. Kind of like how some people want to call it racism and other people want to call it "not my daughter." You know how sometimes you start realizing that you got more bottoms at the top and more tops that would rather just be employed. And yet, yeah, uh, I really don't have much of a whole opinion about one direct little thing right now, because it's almost like, we got people that play in certain little cultural kind of environments that if they could just entertain themselves in just their own little private little Idaho, we'll all be all right. We're not being all right. And I'm watching a whole lot of people take that chance of playing around on that side, not being able to get with this. And a lot of them are slowly becoming insignificant, or in a certain situation where they really have to start considering the possibility of wherever they're at and whatever they thought was going to be, they're going to have to get out to a whole lot of places where a whole lot of other people can't even imagine what it's like to have lived that life. But today, we got to do better. And uh, I like to appreciate all of y'all for being there. And if you know anything about me, you know that I wouldn't mind y'all hitting my Cash App. But I want to drop on here and I want y'all to save and like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to come back because I see you out there. We're going to talk some more. You good?